Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this final session of day two of our annual conference. My name is Alice Yu. I am the head of advocacy and outreach at RF, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to our discussion on efficient roads for smarter cities. So over the last 2 days, I hope some of you have joined some of the sessions that we have had, and kudos to you for those who have stayed through until the end of now day two of our conference. And for those who have joined us, we have explored how the road sector is evolving in a wide range of discussions that we have just had. In the context of the upcoming of the UN Decade of Sustainable Transport, we opened that in our conference opening session. Yesterday, we also looked at what it means for roads to be inclusive and safe for all users. Earlier today, we heard from our young professionals who offer fresh perspectives on emerging trends and innovations in roads development. And just some moments ago, we listened to panelists unpacking the meaning of resilience in road networks. And taken together, these conversations lead us very naturally to the topic of today's session, cities. Because if there's one place where all of these issues converge, like safety, inclusion, resilience, or innovation, it is in our urban environments. And cities everywhere are under pressure. Urbanization is accelerating, congestion is rising, and the demand for limited road space is outpacing supply. And in this reality, creating smarter urban road system is no longer about expanding the infrastructure. I think we have heard a few colleagues, experts from various topics mentioning about that. It's less about building more roads. It's about managing our existing road networks and understanding them much more by looking at them more intelligently and more strategically. So today's session examines how cities are reshaping their road systems. And we have a few dimensions that we would like to look into. For example, it's about better integrating road systems with public transport services. It's about more strategically allocating and managing road space, prioritizing road users. It's about more efficient use or effective use of ITS and real-time data, or about the right policies that reduce congestions and strengthening high-capacity modes. So our speakers today represent these different parts of the solution. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for today's session, Ms. Tivi Tran. She is the head of sustainable mobility at ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability. And in this session, we're very honored to be joined by our speakers. We have Mr. Carol Au. He is the Deputy CEO.
Alice, you are muted.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I spent all this time talking and nobody heard me. Sorry. Let me start over again. Can everybody hear me now? Sorry about this.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Starting all over again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us in this final session of day two of our annual
Oh,
conference.
no, I think,
My name is
yeah,
Alice.
sorry, you can
You
start
got
with
this part?
introducing Carol. Yeah, I can start with
So where
introductions.
did
Yes.
where did I lose you guys?
You're introducing Carol.
I was
Yeah,
introducing her. Oh, so I only missed the last part. Okay, that's good.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
so I mean,
yes.
Corral is here. Thank you for joining us. We also have Iter Koskan. She is the regional innovation manager from Swarco. And we also have Pamela Kwong. He is the associate director from Arab. And we have apologies from Edwin Mermans, but he might join us in any time soon. Thank you very much for everyone to join us today, and apologies for the technical mishap. But to me, now the floor is yours. Thank you so much in advance for taking us this conversation.
Thank you very much, Alice, and thank you very much, IRF, for the invitation to facilitate this session. It's as Alice has shared, hopefully Edwin will be able to join us to share a bit the perspective related to the cities and how the corridors now it's turning into a system, and the importance of connecting different street networks. But in the meanwhile, I would like to go to Mrs. Itil Koskun, Sure. No, sorry, Regional Innovation Manager of Swarco. And Itia, could you please share an example where ITS or mobility management can significantly increase capacity in a road corridor without major construction? As we know, in cities, the space is at premium, and with the increased demand, how can we leverage technology to ensure that essentially we can use the infrastructure at this enhanced capacity? Thanks.
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to thank you and IRF, of course, for this amazing opportunity again to be able to address such a mixed Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes,
we can
if
hear
you're
you.
back, no worries.
Okay. Are you sharing the slide? Because I can't see.
Holding up, coming up soon. Yes,
Yeah, all right. Okay,
thank you.
awesome. So if you go to the first slide, basically, before going into that, I would like to start with how we know that after years of experience, years of construction, years of expanding our road network, we know that building new roads aren't the solution for congestion, right? It's actually the opposite. We learned by now that it simply induces demand and eventually bring just simply more challenges. So it is some sort of a cycle we have there. And how are we addressing this with ITS specifically? If you move to the first slide where we have the intersection level, and again, please confirm if you can hear me because I'm receiving some error on Zoom.
Yes, we can hear you, Itia.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I just can't see the slides. That's why I'm waiting for it to
You're
continue.
on the first slide related to the intersection corridor network.
Yeah. Are you able to see the slide or?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'll just keep on. Somehow I can't see it. Right, okay. So how are we addressing this with ITS? If you look at it on the intersection level, all the way on the left side, we know that intersections are simply hotspots for incidents, right? So these are high-risk areas where different modes of transport basically intersect. But they are also hotspots for emissions due to stop-and-go behavior, for example. And what we do with ITS, one of the most commonly implemented approaches is the intersection optimization, right? So we're trying to optimize the operation there by introducing, for instance, adaptive intersection control systems. This is simply adjusting the signal phases at the intersection based on real-time conditions. And the end goal, as I mentioned, is the optimization of operation based on demand, of course, but it's also based on the priorities of that specific urban area. So you might be looking into increasing the level of service for your public transport, or you might be optimizing the routes specifically for to be able to accommodate more bikes. So it really is a solution that you can tailor based on your priorities in that region. Now, if you move from the intersection level to the network level, so on the system level, this is where this intelligent infrastructure, the impact of this intelligent infrastructure increases exponentially. Now, on this level, we are looking at it as a comprehensive system. So not just focusing on optimizing one intersection, but we're trying to understand how this the actions that you take in one of the intersection has an impact on the whole system. The end goal at the end of it is to have a network orchestration, where you're able to actually take into account the different needs of different modes of transport. Now, coming back to your question again, understanding the logic of it, coming back to the question how to increase capacity. When I'm talking about intersection optimization, as I said, I mentioned this because traffic lights are out there, are the key basically for traffic management, especially in urban areas. They play a significant role. So if we zoom in there, I just talked about adaptive intersection control, right? Being one of the most effective and, let's say, relatively commonly implemented solutions. So at the end of it, what we want to do is to reduce idle red times. And there are multiple studies around it, but one of the studies that we have done, which the end focus of this was to derive emission estimation out of the certain KPIs that we have. Within that study, we found that moving from a fixed intersection towards adaptive intersection control had the potential to reduce average delay and number of stops by almost 50%. Of course, keep in mind that this is done in a controlled environment with the same demand, so it's not a before and after of an actual implementation, but we also have that. We also have seen the significant improvements in journey times, in the number of stop and goes at the intersection. Last but not least, from my side, it is also very important to mention that these solutions around intelligent infrastructure aren't there only to improve the level of service for the vehicle. These solutions can be tailored to apply to other modes of transport as well. And at the end of the day, these technologies, smart infrastructure out there, we are deploying them to adjust, configure to the priorities of the specific region itself. I see the comment that the slides aren't changing. No, I only have one slide, not to exhaust my part yet in the beginning. So at the end of the day, it's also important to keep in mind that the goal is not to accommodate more private vehicles on one road section, right? But targeting all road users out there. And for this reason, intelligent infrastructure simply play a significant role as an enabler towards safer, more efficient, and more sustainable road networks.
And these points are really, really relevant. And thank you for highlighting the different layers of it, and also ensuring showing some of the technology that can support us in ensuring a good flow in our cities. And moving on to Mr. Karel Au, Deputy Chief Executive Officer from Autotoll Limited. So we know that HK-Toll has implemented a free-flow tolling system in Hong Kong. And I wonder if you could share with us on this is an example on how urban road capacity can be unlocked through this technology, and what were the key enablers and barriers to moving from manual toll booths to full free flow system.
Right. Thank you. So in Hong Kong, we implemented HK-Toll in 2023. It was a very short time where we have to install everything and actually get the whole system to get into production. One of the main challenge that we met was we had to reuse all of our existing infrastructure. So no new gantries, no new construction. So what we had to do was to install the entire system on what we call a single gantry. So you can imagine when a car has to move from one gantry to another, you can actually take pictures of the car from the front and rear at the same time. But in Hong Kong, we only have one gantry. And when the car moves through, we take a picture of the front of the car and then all the rest of the information. And then we take a picture of the rear of the car. when it passes through. So we have to implement a whole lot of AI solution into matching all of the different records, all of the different data that we collect at different times. And the different times actually changes between rush hour and non-rush hour. So during non-peak hours, the cars move very quickly. So the window where we collect all the information is very small. But during a traffic jam, you can imagine, taking a picture of the front of the car until you take a picture of the rear of the car, it might take about, a minute or even 2 minutes. So we have to bring a whole new level of intelligence into the system. And that's one of the challenges we meet. But the benefits from implementing HKETO was, you can imagine, when we collect tolls, we actually have to have plazas before. When we have manual tolls, we have to have toll plazas where the traffic diverges into many, many lanes and they get into different queues. And they have to pay cash, they have to get their change, and then they move on and they have to merge back into maybe only a couple of lanes. So that is, it creates a massive traffic jam. And it also, it's sort of like there's a backlog for the traffic behind. And the queue in Hong Kong could reach something like 3 to 4 kilometers during rush hour. After implementing HKETO, there was no need for the cars or for the vehicles to diverge and then to merge back together. So that's a smoother flow of traffic going through the toll areas. And at the same time, we can reduce the traffic jam or the traffic queue by about 40%. Now, that 40% is not just on a single road. It actually covers different intersections before the toll areas. So we can actually free up the intersections coming into the toll areas. And that frees up the traffic around all the toll areas as well. So that's one of the benefits we see. Another thing that we implemented in Hong Kong is we have 3 cross-harbor tunnels. The geography of Hong Kong is we have this island in the south and a peninsula in the top. And then there are 3 road crossings going from what we call Kowloon into Hong Kong Island. And these 3 tunnels are traditionally the most busiest. They tend to get a lot of traffic jam in the morning. And what we have implemented in Hong Kong is what we call time varying toll. So the toll actually get increased by $2 every 2 minutes. So it increased gradually, and it's increased in a very short time. And then it goes into the peak, and then during non-peak hour, it comes back down again. So we can actually spread the traffic across non-peak times, and it brings the peaks down, and then that actually can help to reduce the actual traffic jam. And across the 3 tunnels, we can actually implement different charging. So some tunnels, where they're busier, we can actually charge more. Some where traditionally is less traffic, we can charge, the ones that are busiest, we charge more. The ones less busy, we charge less. So the traffic tends to choose the shortest route instead of all converging into the cheapest route. So this is one of the benefits we got from HKETO in Hong Kong.
Thank you very much, Carol, for sharing very specific and clear strategies, and essentially also how it's important to combine not only technology, but also the pricing strategies to also manage the demand in essence. And especially in such a case in which essentially in Hong Kong, you have limited space and then you need to really optimize the capacity of the roads. And it's a really inspiring also to see how essentially by changing or introducing certain technologies, you are able to enable a better flow and reduce congestion, and the numbers are quite impressive indeed. And I will ask a question to the next speaker, which is Mr. Hamlin Kwong, Associate Director of Arup. And we have heard that the free flow tolling and the digital spatial allocation can enhance the road capacity, but we also heard about the rebound effect. So how do we ensure that the freed space essentially is not then used for more sustainable mode of transport, and then essentially is not then reconsumed by cars? Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, let me say thank you to RF for inviting me to this annual forum. It's great to be here online meeting all the experts from around the world. So please, Alice, could you please share my slide first? All right, thank you. So getting back to your question, what I would like to do is to share our experience on the sustainable use of existing toll plaza areas at the 9 different sites where we have implemented Hong Kong e-toll since 2023. So actually the design and planning works of the freed up toll plaza areas were actually conducted well even before Carell and his team in AutoToll have been developing the system itself. So actually lots of planning and design efforts in terms of urban spaces have been put into this from the very beginning. So fundamentally, many sites will be used to enhance the bus interchange facilities because here in Hong Kong, it's common practice here for strategic tunnels to be used as bus interchange areas. So the freed up areas would be developed into for more spacious and comfortable and even air-conditioned waiting areas with public amenities and small commercial facilities. Now at the Western Harbor Crossing Toll Plaza, that's at the bottom left, which is located right next to a high-speed railway station and also the cultural district. The freed up areas will be further enhanced with a comprehensive transport interchange hub with bicycle storage facilities, park and ride facilities, etc. There's even a longer-term plan to relocate the existing toll administration building to the freed up area so that the Western Cultural District would even have a more valuable space to expand the cultural district. Now, for another site, also in the very hub of the Hong Kong Urban District, the Cross Harbour Tunnel Toll Plaza at the top left-hand side of the diagram, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University has actually proposed to build a green deck right over the toll plaza area, linking the university campus with the adjacent railway station. And this project could only happen because the toll plaza was narrowed down to allow structural columns to be built to hold up the green deck. And that could only be done after the implementation of the free-flow tolling system. So in addition to that, at the Cross Harbour Tunnel, the freed up area could be used to relocate the operational facilities, for example, the tunnel operator, vehicle parking, the sheds, etc., and allow for expansion of the adjacent harborfront boardwalk, as you can see at the bottom middle diagram. So we do try to use the freed up area as people-centric as possible. However, there are actual cases where the freed up area would allow opportunities for the widening of very congested highways to enhance the road network resilience. For example, at the bottom right-hand corner is the Lion Rock Tunnel, which is very heavily congested during all the morning and afternoon peak hours. And that could only be possible to improve it because the toll plaza had been removed and narrowed down to allow for the relocation of the existing operational buildings and free available space to actually widen the tunnel itself to actually enhance the resilience of the tunnel network. Next slide, please. So those were actually the planned sustainable use of those freed up areas, specifically at the major strategic roads and tunnels arising from the Hong Kong e-toll projects. But actually in the design for future cities, we may actually need less road space due to, say, technological advancements, such as autonomous vehicles, changes in travel patterns. For example, more people work from home and don't need to travel to work every day, and also public transport networks. So for the local urban spaces, we as Arab propose to introduce people-centric design standards for greener variants of local urban roads. So, and we had developed a comprehensive set of sustainable road design guidelines for adoption by the local Hong Kong government to be followed by local road designs in future. So our designs have prioritized needs for pedestrians, cyclists, electric mobility devices, and green transport for all classes of local urban roads. And we also try to integrate road designs with the adjacent land uses to prioritize people-centered environments and create sustainable urban neighborhoods, such that all the community facilities and services could be reached within the 15-minute living circle. And so that's how we, here locally recently have tried to, make the most sustainable use of the urban spaces from the strategic roads and also from the local roads perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamlin, for highlighting also the importance of design and design and also integrated urban mobility in essence, and also the importance of ensuring that there is accessibility within a 15-minute, ideally, or at least an attempt towards that. There have been also some questions coming in for other speakers, and I will move towards Mrs. Ito, and in essence, SWACO has a very data-driven approach, and there have been two sets of questions. One question is related to what are the key metrics cities should track to gauge whether roads are becoming smarter and more efficient. And the other question that is coming also from the audience is related on compliance and essentially how do you ensure that people are following the rules.
Yes, so thank you for the question. It is indeed very important. I'll start with the first one, looking at the key metrics, right? So I would classify the key metrics into four. We can start with the efficiency. This is the road engineering 101 indicators. We're basically looking at here how reliable people and goods move. We're talking about journey time, queue lengths, level of service, and so on and so on. Now, these simply go hand in hand with how punctual, let's say, the public transport is, how consistent, also for some urban areas, for instance, how consistent bike flow is, right? So efficiency is the first one. And then we have safety. Now, when we talk about road safety, the most commonly used metric is the number of accidents, let's say number of collisions. However, this is often not enough. So we also know that we need to look at the near misses, which is basically the incidents that are not collisions at the end, but with a slight change in time and space would have ended as a collision, right? So speaking of collisions and near misses, to basically understand how high risk an intersection is. But then under safety, I would mention also the incident response times to understand how quick I am as a city to respond to incidents. Then we have sustainability, which is gaining more and more importance in our day-to-day. And here I can talk about on-site emissions, either estimated via the efficiency indicators that I mentioned before, or simply measured on-site by sensors. Then the fourth one is the connectivity. So here I'm talking about more the share of connected road users, the share of connected infrastructure that we have out there. So I'm interested in understanding the penetration of the connected components that I have out there. Now, this is ultimately a significant indicator, because at the end, this has a big indicator in how, let's say, efficient, how good quality data I have at the end. So I can say that without connected vehicles or connected infrastructure, connected road users data, we don't really know what is happening on our networks in that specific time, in actual time. So we're kind of operating in the dark, and that also often means that we're not able to take effective actions. One important thing to mention here is that we need to interpret these set of metrics together if we really want to understand what is happening on the road network. If we focus on one or two and ignore the others, there's a high risk of misreading this situation at the end of the day. As an example would be that, for instance, if I increase the efficiency of an intersection operation, that means maybe that I would have fewer stops and it would look like an improvement. But if this also increases the average speed, if it increases near misses or emissions, because I'm simply accommodating more private vehicles on that specific road stretch, that is at the end not actual efficiency that I am looking for, right? That means there's an induced demand, and it basically goes against our ultimate goals of safety and sustainability. So in the end, smarter roads are not just about improving one KPI, but it's basically about finding a balance between, as mentioned, efficiency, safety, sustainability, and the data quality that basically is an enabler to all of it. The question about compliance is very important. How we do this is, it is very market specific. In Europe, GDPR, for instance, is quite important. And we make sure that all of our products that we provide out there are compliant with the local requirements. And that is the same in the US, in Latin America, or in other parts of the world. So we are, of course, designing an infrastructure, on one side, the hardware and the software. But when we are going to a specific market for deployment, we have to make sure that indeed we are compliant with the local requirements. So this is a natural part of our operation. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Carol. And thank you for highlighting the importance of balancing different aspects related to when assessing the road efficiency and also capacity in cities. And I think on compliance, perhaps I wasn't clear in the sense that how do you ensure compliance from the drivers actually when you are introducing different technologies and ensuring efficiencies on the road. But
yes, so it's more on the enforcement side, right? I understand. So enforcement is another component, right? And public authorities play a key role here. And of course, we as a technology provider, we're providing the technology, but at the end, how it is enforced and how it is deployed is also highly close to the policies of that region, which is very key, because at the end of the day, also we need to keep in mind that what we want to do with the solutions that we're offering is not to limit certain, let's say, movements or level of service, but we're trying to create options for all types of road users. So it should be a push and pull approach. We need to make sure that while we are maybe lowering the speeds on one side or changing the access rules of one road stretch, we are able to accommodate that demand in a different way on the other side of the network, right? So this basically, as I mentioned, understanding the local road users' behavior and designing the use cases fitting that specific behavior. But then this must be always coupled with effective policies. And that, I believe, is the key for enforcement, because you can do as advanced technology as you want out there, but these aren't the end goals. These are basically just enablers for the end goal that you are planning to achieve.
Thank you, Itir. And we have a similar question for Mr. Carol, and Carol has already answered it in the Q&A, but I wonder if, Carol, you would like to expand on which measures are implemented to detect, prevent, and enforce compliance, since it's a very similar question to what was Itir was answering. Carol, over to you in case you would like to expand on that.
Okay. I answered some of the questions in the Q&A. So how do we enforce people we enforce toll payments? So our system is actually connected to the central vehicle and owners database in Hong Kong. So we can actually trace the ownership of every vehicle that passes our toll areas. So once they go through, they got 14 business day period before they have to pay up. So they can do that in arrears. If they don't pay within that period, then we send a letter, we send emails, we send short messages to remind them. I think it's been working very well so far. Most people in Hong Kong, they do pay up. But on the other hand, though, I think it's not just about enforcement. It's also about how we can encourage people, especially in Hong Kong. It's a very small, congested city, and we have a lot of vehicles. We have around 830,000 vehicles, and we only got 7.5 million population. So it's a city of a lot of vehicles. But most people actually do take public transport. So there was an encouragement from the government to use public transport. So one of the ways that we do that with vehicles in Hong Kong is we don't charge buses, right? Our system actually exempt all buses from tolls. And that has a side effect where previously, when each bus goes through a tunnel, they have to pay. And they choose the cheapest when they're empty, when they don't carry any passengers. They actually choose the cheapest tunnel to go back to where they come from. Sometimes in Hong Kong, it's interesting. We got two bus companies, so sometimes a lot of buses actually travel empty. So when these buses goes back across the harbour and they choose the cheapest tunnel, it creates a traffic jam in the other direction. So by not charging them, you can actually encourage buses to go back by the shortest route. And that's the same with taxis. Taxis do have to pay, but they pay the same on all different tunnels. So we encourage people to take public transport by adjusting the fares, by adjusting the tolls so that they take the shortest route. And that actually sort of created a situation where the congestion is now eased in some tunnels, it increases in some others, but it evens out across multiples. So that's one of the areas that the government can work on to actually make the roads even more efficient. And one of the KPIs that I think they have to collect is to find out how many of each type of vehicles go through the tunnel, even at different times of the day, even by the minute. So we can adjust the charging, the increase, the actual time varying toll. We can actually adjust that according to the different times of the day. So this is one of the metrics that we look at. And I think the main enforcement part is to make sure they pay. That's one thing that we have to work on. And another is to see which one doesn't have to pay, right? And that actually encourage more efficient road use. So it's a very interesting situation here in Hong Kong.
Thank you so much, Carol. And it seems that one of the key KPIs is understanding where there are like some bottlenecks from the infrastructural perspective and try to manage it as best as possible based on also in data and metrics that are tracked. Thank you for highlighting all this. And I've seen that there is quite a lot of conversation related to congestion charging, and perhaps if we have additional time, it might be worth like a follow-up related to it. But I would move then on to Mr. Hamlin. And in your experience at IREP, you have seen different type of scalable infrastructure. So I wonder what is one design innovation that you can predict and will become a standard for smarter urban roads?
Okay, thank you for a question. Would Alice please show my slide again? Next one, please. Yeah. Right. So thank you for the question. We often talk about smart urban roads in terms of putting in more intelligent and more high quality of field equipment or facilities onto your roads and streets. most often with the objective of getting faster and more precise urban road traffic data, and also for more precise and efficient traffic controls. This is absolutely fine, as we do not indeed need to harness vast amounts of data as the fundamental block in making our roads smarter. Nevertheless, taking into account of the fast development and prevalence of our mobile units and onboard units, V2X infrastructure, detectors and camera systems, there may not be a very pressing need to further introduce more layers of hardware onto our roads. So my personal opinion is that we should take a step back and look into how we can actually further innovate and more to make our roads smarter from an overall high-level network context. So many cities nowadays don't really lack data or even hard infrastructure or even digital data platforms. What many cities really lack are the tools and the means on how to harness all those multimodal transport and mobility data and transform them to useful information to guide our city's operators in how to fine-tune our transport network to operate more efficiently and effectively. So the main drive in many of our cities, including Hong Kong, is to introduce AI-driven mobility data analytics for driving a smarter urban mobility network as a whole. So with those AI-driven data analytics, modeling, and simulation with multimodal real-time mobility data, the platform could actually recommend the best course of actions in managing the changing conditions of the overall road network. So one of the initiatives that you can actually see in the slide here is to implement an integrated corridor management scheme where the real-time data on information such as travel information, traffic conditions, public transport operational status, incident information, presence of major events or crowd, etc., all fed into an AI-driven analytics model. And the system develops an integrated corridor management solution, recommending the appropriate adjustments to facilities such as traffic signal timing along key road corridors, highway traffic control signaling, and also adjustments to the deployment in the bus services along high demand corridors. So next page, please. Looking at a wider angle in terms of scalability, such application of AI-driven applications could also be applied to intercity mobility data analytics, where interfacing mobility data are selected and shared among cities to enhance intercity connectivity, not just within the city, but within the wider region. So Hong Kong is actually very interconnected with the adjacent Shenzhen to the north. As you can see on the diagram to the right, there are actually 11 boundary crossing facilities linking Hong Kong and the region, covering road, rail, sea, and air crossings. And the intercity mobility data analytics platform is being built such that real-time patterns of boundary crossing passenger numbers could be detected and shared with the adjacent city. So the system could analyze the changes in patterns in the arrival of cross-boundary passengers, taking into account the waiting and queuing times at the customs and immigration facilities, and then recommending the bus operators to refine their bus deployment strategies in anticipating of the arrival crowds. So such intercity mobility platform could be particularly useful for handling special festivals and even social events. For example, recently after the end of a major pop concert in Hong Kong, many visitors would just dash back to Shenzhen at night. And this real-time search and cross-boundary passenger patterns could be adequately handled by this intercity mobility analytics platform. So in a gist, rather than looking at, road links themselves, road infrastructure themselves, we should look, at a wider context in a citywide and national, citywide network context, or even within the regional context. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting the importance of introducing AI and leveraging AI essentially to manage also larger events and ensuring that the most convenient mode of transport is also the most sustainable one. Because in the end of the day, that unlocks also opportunity for cities, for instance, for concert economy or tourism or larger events. And of course, that's an economic opportunity, but also an opportunity also for people to essentially ensure that they can also go home at a reasonable time. So thank you so much also for this broader perspective. And I would like to stay with you, Hamlin, with a last round of questions related to you have advised many cities. So what would be your advice, considering that many cities have limited budget and that is what would be your priority essentially? And I would ask the same question to all the speakers. So, Hamlin, over to you.
Okay, so if there are like a few priorities, first of all, I think that's reflecting on what I just said earlier, that we should actually better use AI applications in data analytics, especially because of course, introducing these would incur capital investment costs. But then, IT platforms and softwares comparatively would involve less capital costs as compared with constructing vast amounts of transport infrastructure hardware. So I think that's reflecting with what I've said earlier. A second priority would be actually to improve, better and more effective, people-friendly dissemination of transport information to the public. So using all modes of communications. Because we often talk about how to design, plan, and operate our roads and transport facilities. But this is only handling the supply side of the transport network. So if we can allow everyone to make better and more efficient journey choice and travel modes, it would certainly help to optimize the demand side of the urban mobility. So with both the supply and the demand side optimized, we can then achieve a more efficient and people-centric urban mobility system. And another priority, the third one that I want to mention is to potentially strengthen traffic enforcement. So I think the discussion of enforcement was actually discussed with the other speaker just now. So although it may sound negative, but actually many of our urban traffic problems often arise due to illegal activities. For example, illegal roadside activities often reduce the road capacities and directly cause congestions. And disobeying traffic signals and signs not only slow down the network efficiency, it also directly causes traffic accidents. So safety always comes first. And in addition to that, we can always have a smoother urban transport network if everyone follows the rules. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I wonder if Carol, would you like her to share your insights as well?
I think one of the main thing about road usage is I think we need to encourage the move to or encourage the use of public transport. So most cities around the world they have a strict sort of framework for public transport company to provide services. Some cities have heavy rail, some cities have underground, some cities mainly run buses. But the barrier to entry to all these provided for public transport is actually quite high. So back in the 60s, 70s, I'll use Hong Kong as an example. We have this public light bus system where individual operators, they actually run a public light bus and that carries about 14 to 16 people. And they have routes to all over the place to little serve small towns, outlying areas. And it was quite efficient in its day. And it was easy to get into, easy to implement. And it got the city moving in a way that public transport can be better arranged in the future. So with some cities, especially in the developing world, I think this is one of the areas they can look at, is to follow a model where public transport operators can enter the market easily and then slowly regulate them and then to build up a public transport network from that. So I think that's one of the areas too we can look at. And another, of course, is to reduce the number of cars. I mean, this is, as I want to echo what Hamlin just said, I think the illegal roadside activities, mainly the illegal parking. Now, in most cities, illegal parking is actually a very small fine. You don't get fined a lot for parking illegally. But I think stricter enforcement should be made in this area, make it very, very difficult for people who park illegally to not just to pay a fine, but to renew their licenses or even to renew their vehicle licenses in the future. So things like that can help to reduce this type of activities. And by freeing up the roads gets less congested, more vehicles can move through, and it's good for public transport as well. So I think these are some of the policies that can be carried out very quickly, especially in a very short time, right? So if you got a limited amount of budget, you don't have a very long time to implement things like that. And these are the policies that can work in a short time.
Thank you so much, Carol, also for highlighting the importance of having attractive alternatives. So because in essence, enhancing the capacity of the roads, either digitally, physically, it's not sufficient in many of the cities, but having attractive mass transit then compensates also for the need of for the increased demand in many of the cities. And last but not least, Itir, if I could ask for your insights.
Yes, of course. So coming from a road infrastructure provider's perspective, specifically ITS technology provider perspective, and a key advice here for the cities basically with limited budget would be to start with, of course, with interventions that deliver the highest impact per investment. So I'm talking about focusing on optimizing what you already have. And with that, I mean is that not before I'm starting large-scale investments, an approach would be to recommend basically upgrading the existing infrastructure that we have there, improving coordination across different intersections, let's say across to create some sort of a corridor, adding software-based intelligence through cloud or central platforms, because these steps can easily reduce delays, emissions, increase the efficiency in operation without major costs or construction. Now, looking towards, let's say, more CITS, more cooperative ITS, and even we talk about automated autonomous cars, right? And how do we accommodate them? So even looking towards there in the future, how to start with for cities that do not have infrastructure available there would be first deciding on a few priority intersections, defining a corridor if possible, and building this as more of a learning area, so a learning corridor in this case, instead of a full-scale deployment. This type of an approach would allow pilots, would allow data collection, and then scaling only when the value is actually seen, experienced there. And of course, across all of this, there are certain key principles that we would like to keep in mind, which are interoperability, having open standards, to have an open ecosystem, so that the investments that will to come remains basically future-proof and can also be expanded later. So yes, at the end of the day, I will talk about, as I mentioned, beginning optimizing what we have, the available infrastructure. If we need to build on infrastructure, then defining a smaller region, an area to focus and digitalize step by step, and then scaling only when the actual value and the impact is demonstrated.
Thank you so much, Itia. I think that in this conversation, we cover a lot of ground. Essentially, it's important to have an integrated approach, leveraging technology that enables then an adaptive management of the transportation system, and looking at the ecosystem, and meaning also ensuring that there is enforcement on the road, but at the same time that there are attractive alternatives as well. And thank you for your insights. And I will hand over to Alice to wrap up the session for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I didn't turn on my camera, so you probably couldn't see me keep nodding and nodding throughout the entire hour. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I think I had a personal favorite here because I'm actually from Hong Kong as well. So it's almost like relearning about the city that I grew up in and that I have enjoyed living in so much. And indeed, being able to listen to all these new ideas and innovations has really um, enlightened me and also helped me understand that there's just so many solutions that are already available, and there's no one solution that can really tackle the core of the problem. Again, I really appreciate listening to this conversation. It's almost like a good wrap up for the thematic discussions and dialogues that we have been having over the last 2 years. And I would like to just raise one particular point that was always recurring throughout the different sessions. And this is how we redefine success in our transport systems, in our road systems. Yeah. And this, I think, initial idea came from the session on inclusive and equitable road access when we had our first session. And there was an expert that talked about, and actually multiple experts mentioned already about that when we define success, of what makes a successful road system is that we need to go beyond the usual, appraisal engineering standards, right? We need to stop finding the easiest way to spend money on infrastructure. We need to look at things holistically. And in this session, we have heard the key matrices that Itier, Carol, and Hamlin, you have repeatedly mentioned and going within so much depth to expand on these ideas that goes beyond efficiency, goes beyond journey time or queue length. You talk about predictability, consistency, reliability, safety, inclusive and people-centered planning, offering a range of options, prioritizing public transport as an alternative options for people. We talked about complementing policies for pricing, for public transport exemption policies, for parking or illegal parking reduction. We talked about compliance and enforcement. We talked about AI and data analytics. We talked about the push and the pull, and in which I come from the world of the avoid, shift, improve framework as well. I mean, it is a constant, no matter what we call these kind of frameworks, but the idea is the same, is that there's no strict jacket, in how we define success in transport systems. And the best way is that we look at things holistically. So I do think that today our discussion has been very, very fruitful because you really took the time to explain to us what it means to look at efficient road systems that are just beyond the faster system that we're offering, right? And we hope that the ideas that you have shared today will continue to support cities everywhere, not only in developed cities like Hong Kong, but also for other cities that are in developing regions that we're seeing that our audience are coming from. We continue to build road systems that are truly smarter and more people friendly. So I just wanted to thank you one more time and for these conversations. And with that, we're wrapping up the second day of our annual conference. I appreciate particularly those who have stayed through with us, which there's still so many of you that are stayed here with us at this hour. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, again at our sessions. And we have 2 more thematic sessions to go. And then we'll have our closing sessions in which we will also highlight a series of startups and innovations that are emerging from our sector and our community. And we're giving them some time to reflect on their success as well. So thank you again for being here. Tomorrow we will start at 2 o'clock European time using the same Zoom link. Please join us tomorrow again. And in the meantime, wishing you good afternoon, good morning, good night to wherever you are. Thank you so much.